Hello, I am Yoda, and today I present to you the new characters of God of War Ragnarok, who they are, what they eat, and where these figures live, at least based on Norse mythology. Are we going to find out together? God of War Ragnarok received a few trailers and showed a little more of the narrative than it will be the second and final chapter of the adventure of Kratos and his son Atreus, with both somehow involved in the titular Ragnarok, the end of the world according to Norse mythology. Something worth highlighting in all this is how the trailer shows Atreus in search of answers about who he really is, in addition to showing some of the new characters that will be part of the journey. Therefore, we will try to understand, based on Norse mythology, who these figures are and how they might have any impact on the plot. But first, it's worth remembering that this story contains spoilers from the end of God of War 2018, which features important twists on the role of Atreus and Kratos in all of this. Before we talk about the new characters more properly, it is important to contextualize more about a character we know, but who received an unexpected new facet at the end of the previous game, Atreus, or Loki for the most intimate. At the end of the story, Atreus and Kratos finally reach Jotunheim, the realm of the giants of Norse mythology, going to the highest mountain to throw the ashes of Atreus' mother Faye. And it is there that both discover messages on the walls of the place, showing the whole journey of the two until that moment, as well as a glimpse of the future of the duo. More than that, one of the most important parts of this mural shows Atreus' mother in dialogue with a group of giants. When talking to them, she refers to her son not by the name we know him, but as Loki. Loki is one of the most important and popular figures in Norse mythology, but if the idea you have about him comes from his portrayal in Marvel Works cinema or comics, try to forget, almost, everything you think you know about the god of cheating. Rather than a simple villain or antagonist to the other gods and heroes, Loki has a totally chaotic personality. Not evil, it's important to highlight. Loki's parents are Laufey and the giant Farbaugi. In the Edda's records, the collection of poems and texts that tell the stories of Norse mythology as we know them, there is no exact origin of Laufey, and for this very reason there is both the possibility of her being a goddess and a giant, among other diverse beings present in mythology. According to the stories, Loki had 7 children, with some of them already present in the last God of War, even though Atreus was a child. Of these sons, 3 of them have a mother in common, Angerboda. Jormungandr, the serpent that roams the world and one of Kratos and Loki's greatest allies in the God of War 2018, literally and figuratively. Hel, the goddess of death and guardian of the kingdom of Helheim, whose appearance is described as a half-beautiful and half-rotten body, as if a part of her were dead. And finally, the giant wolf Fenrir, in a hurry to kill Odin, the father of all, during Ragnarok. And while we're talking about her, Angerboda. Angerboda was the last character revealed in the trailer, appearing as a young woman who appears to be the age of Atreus. In Norse mythology, she is a giant of Jotunheim, worshipped as the goddess of fear, mainly because of her 3 children with Loki. There are several different versions about the end of Angerboda, but the vast majority of them say that Odin feared his ability to generate absolutely terrifying creatures. One of the stories says that Odin imprisoned her, while another says that he has burned her body, leaving only her heart, which Loki would eat, thus generating her 3 children. Greek and Norse mythology has its own gods with its own characteristics, but both possess a god of war. In Norse mythology, Tyr is an easier god, like Thor and Odin, and despite only having his first official appearance in the trailer for GoW, Ragnarok, his name and actions were discussed widely and at various points in the previous game. One of the main elements that characterize Tyr's appearance in Nordic stories is the lack of an arm, which he lost to the wolf Fenrir, Loki's son, something that deserves explanation. After the Aesir baniled Jormungandr to the bottom of the sea and Hel to Helheim, Fenrir was taken to Asgard to grow among the gods. However, the more time passed, the greater and more dangerous the beast became, which together with what the prophecies said about it caused more and more fear in the deities, always for providing destruction and disgrace from the wolf. Thus, the gods decided to try to arrest Fenrir with chains, but without the wolf noticing. To this end, they made a certain joke by challenging the wolf to test the maximum of his strength, trapping him with a chain that was broken in seconds. On the second attempt, Fenrir was challenged once again as an even stronger second current. As you may imagine, she broke easily. Not giving up, Odin asked the dwarves of Svartalfheim to forge an absolutely unbreakable current. Accepting the request, they requested the following ingredients: the breath of a fish, the root of a mountain, the sound of a cat's walk, a woman's beard, the nerves of a bear, and the spit of a bird. Together, the ingredients would form Glapier, which led to the third attempt to arrest Loki's son Wolf. When the bandage was ready, Fenrir already had a notion of what the gods wanted to do, and when they challenged him, the creature said he would only accept to be trapped if he had the arm of one of the gods in his jaw. That's when Tyr put his arm in the wolf's mouth, who soon realized that the chain had a magic that made it tighter the more he tried to let go. Thus, he gave up continuing and tore off Tyr's arm, who sacrificed the limb to ensure that the Aesir succeeded in their mission. It's important to give all this context because the curious part of Tyr's appearance in the trailer is precisely the fact that God still has both arms in perfect condition, which may mean that the game will show the whole story of the loss of his arm, or that Sony Santa Monica will make its own version of the event itself. After all, God of War is not necessarily the best place to learn about the Nordic gods, and it wouldn't be the first time the studio doesn't have such a rigid attachment to mythology. A good example of this is Baldur, a god worshipped for his beauty and who has always been linked to wisdom and justice, but was portrayed as an unbalanced psychopath in the last game. Finally, we were finally able to see in more detail the god that appears in the last scene of God of War 2018. It is probably one of the most important that we will see in the sequel: Thor, the god of thunder, and probably the most popular among the Aesir. Remember what I said about Loki and Marvel? Well, that goes even further for Thor, whose mythological figure is far from the character who became popular in both the comics and portrayed by Chris Hemsworth in the MCU films. His role in God of War Ragnarok promises to be of immense importance, especially when we remember that Modi, one of Thor's sons, was killed by Atreus, and the end of the previous game indicates that he wants to settle scores with Kratos. Thor's greatest enemy in mythology is Jormungandr, Loki's son serpent. Ragnarok's prophecy says that the god of thunder kills the creature during battle, but dies in the process, managing to take only 9 steps before succumbing to his poison. Considering that in the last game, Atreus, Loki, kills Thor's son, it is quite plausible the possibility of bringing the idea of the death of Jormungandr and Thor faithfully to mythology. It is likely that, until the release of the game, we will see even more characters and news from the next God of War, and what may be their roles in the conclusion of the Nordic saga of Kratos and Atreus. If you're looking forward to this new God of War, leave a taste and subscribe. For today, we're done here. Thanks for watching. May Kratos be with you. Goodbye.